Hey everybody, welcome to the April 29th, 2016 edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. I'm your host, Intuit's Developer Evangelist for the QuickBooks API and apps.com. You can follow me at Twitter at David Leary. You can also follow Intuit Developer on Twitter at IntuitDev, INTUITDEV. The chances are if you're here or you're watching us on YouTube, there's probably a high chance you're already on Twitter, so definitely connect with us on that medium. Today we have a special guest, Jason Block. He is I'm the QBO product manager for the inventory features. He was on about 2.5 to 3 months ago to talk about item bundles that are coming into QBO and kind of get feedback from developers and your take on that. Today he's going to talk about price levels and what your needs are as developers and kind of give you an overview of how that's going to work inside of QBO. Also, if you want to find out about future Hangouts, you can always go to the hub, and that's intuitdeveloper.com/hub, and click the events tab, and all the future Hangouts will be listed there. And as always, they're on Friday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific time. We might do a special one for a big announcement that's coming up next week, so just keep your eyes open for that one. We might do actually one like a 3 in the afternoon type of a deal, but a special one possibly next week or the following week after that for a pretty exciting announcement we have for developers. So in the meantime, I'm going to stop sharing this slide here and get things handed over to Jason and get you guys introduced to him. So stop sharing. Hey, Jason. I think you're already sharing, but if you want to stop sharing for 1 second and say hi, maybe put your video up. Perfect.
Hey, guys.
This is Jason. Hey, Jason. You want to go and introduce yourself, and then if you want, you could just jump into and kind of give your overview of the price levels. It'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So, like David said, I'm a PM for inventory, and we'll be talking about price levels today. We have item bundles coming up pretty soon, as you guys know. Price levels are a little further down the road, so a lot of these, we have a lot of mock-ups and data together right now, but they're very much subject to change. So, just wanted to throw out a disclaimer not to make any too definitive plans based on what we present here today, but I think we have enough to get some good feedback from you. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. Oops, sorry,
and we're just getting his desktop shared here. For any of you that are watching this kind of in the YouTube experience, there's a Q&A panel. You can open your Q&A panel and ask questions, and I'll get those to Jason so we can get those answered. If you are watching and you want to join, below the video, I have put the URL, the join URL, and you can actually join in the same way Jack and Stephen have joined in today. And it looks like Jason's getting things set up, so Jason, fire away.
Sure. So just to give a very high-level overview, as you might know, price levels are different levels of discounts on a given item for different groups of customers. So, for instance, you might have a wholesale discount, and for the customers that are considered wholesale customers for the small business owner, they might get 20% off a certain range of items. So, first I'll show you guys we have some UI mock-ups, and as you know, going forward in the future, QBO's UI will be utilizing the same APIs as third-party developers. So this should be a good example of what your app might be able to do as well.
Jason, would it be possible for you to maximize that? Right now it's just about half your monitor.
Okay, sure. Is it hard to see? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe try to go full screen with the slide deck. I know you probably have notes on the side.
Yeah, I had some notes on the side, but how about I'll just start with one run-through of this first.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Oh, that's much better. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so this would be empty price levels UI, pretty straightforward. If you would hit new price level up at the top right.
And this is the UI inside of QuickBooks Online, right? These are
correct.
What
yes.
in theory it would look like. Okay, got it.
These are mock-ups of what QuickBooks Online would look like, correct? So this price levels list would be reachable, through this settings gear in the top right, along with the other lists. You'd hit new price level at the top right, and that would bring up a drawer like this. So here you would put in the name of the price level, you can put in an expiration date, and I'll talk about the customers first. Right here, you'd have a drop-down for, and the subsequent screens will show this in a little more detail. You can pretty straightforward. Put the companies that this price level will apply to, and then after that, you can go here and indicate that you'd like to decrease all items, the entire products and services list, whenever a given item is placed on an invoice to these customers. Discount all items by this percent. Now, if you'd like to discount a specific item by a different percent than this generic one, you would click into here, and that's when you'd be able to do the overrides. So I'll go and show that in a little more depth. So here's where you'd add a customer. And we have 3 customers. So we went back. So at this point, no overrides were added. So a 15% discount applies to the 3 customers listed in there, and there are no specific overrides. This is in the customer's information page. It's just a reference to the price level they belong to. Now going back here, if we were to click Edit, bring this back up, this should be bolded right here as now being selected. You can add in, you'll see here all of your products, and you can add them in. And then here you can override the standard price. This is the base price that you've loaded in with a specific price, and that will supersede the discount that you've indicated over here. So now once you have that, you have complete granularity on discounting, and now I'll show you when you go into a transaction in QBO how it's automatically utilized. So if the customer were to select Agate Enterprises up here, the price level service would automatically be queried. It would be determined that distributor 1 is the correct price level that Agate belongs to, and down here the $9.25 price would be the default one selected. If the user were to click into this box, they would also see other price levels that potentially apply to this item. And so that's about it. Do you guys have any questions yet? If not, I can show you from an API perspective how this UI would be calling different parts of the price level service. Sound good, David? Hello? Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, my computer's bogged down for a second. I couldn't get over the mute button. But no, it seems pretty straightforward. I think the interesting take, and this goes back to like old desktop days. In QuickBooks Desktop, you could have price levels, but you had to go to each customer individually to specify the price level. But it seems like this UI is going to let you pretty quickly just run down a list of customers and just add them, correct?
Correct. Right. And as we'll see from the API, if your app wanted to add price levels from the customer UI, you'd be able to do that as well.
Okay, from the other direction too. Okay.
The other direction too. Okay, so now I'll split these two. So this is from an API perspective. Again, these are very high-level thoughts, very much subject to change. So go down here, create a price level. You enter name, wholesale, and then this would be the customer IDs and the price level should apply to. This is what the object looks like. And then the price modifications, this would refer to a direct override, $10 in US dollars to item ID 20. You also have the option to specify a mod percentage, -15 for instance, round to nearest dollar, and then add specific number of cents. For a range of item IDs, or for all. And the reason for this order is that this is also the order that the priority is taken into account. So for item ID 20, the price will be $10. For item ID 21, it will receive a 30% discount off of its base price, rounded up to the nearest dollar. For all other item IDs, they'll receive a 15% discount, rounded up to the nearest dollar. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, so if I may, so this is actually adding the price level item itself, and then what customer it would apply to. So I'm just kind of thinking, like, so if I'm a developer and I have an app, maybe it's a CRM app or it's a manufacturing or inventory type app or shipping app, and I actually use that to process my orders, or maybe once I negotiate my prices with that customer and they get 10% off or 15% off, you can pass that back into QBO then.
Correct, yeah. This would be the exact objects that you'd be editing, and it would capture all the information here that you want.
Got it.
So
hey,
go ahead,
Zach or Steven, did you guys have any comments or thoughts so far? You're both on mute, but you can feel free to unmute to ask him.
Yeah. Is on the price level, are the customers required, or can you just have the price level be on the items, and as you're creating orders, to say put in, okay, this guy's going to get a wholesale price, this guy's going to get a retail price, this guy's going to get a government price, without having particulars on a customer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll get to that. I have the transaction workflows worked out here, but customers aren't required at all. So in that case, you'd only add the price modifications, and then you could just query for no conditionals on customers, and it would return you all price levels. And then you can apply that information as you please.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So going back to the UI, you guys understand, but if the UI were creating a price level through this service, they would initially specify 15% on all items, and then if one were to go into the overrides, those would be specific overrides of an exact value on a given item. What the price levels UI doesn't utilize is discounting specific percentages on specific items, but that's available for third-party developers as well. So continuing on, view price levels, of course, pretty straightforward. You can query for the name, description, etc. to display them in a list like this. If you'd like, you could also edit and view price levels from an items drawer itself by doing a query where the price modifications contain a given item ID. That way you can say, if you're in the edit drawer for item 20, you can say, here are 3 price levels, wholesale 1, 2, and 3, that apply to this item. Updating the price levels just right on that object. And the transaction workflow is where it gets a little more interesting. So, point out what's going on the UI. First, the invoice UI would be displayed. Then the QuickBooks user selects a customer up here. The price level service is queried for price levels where the conditional contains that customer. And since QBO UI is enforcing that a customer can only be in one price level, it'll only be one price level object returned at most. However, currently we're not planning on making that an actual validation. So for you guys, you would be able to create price levels. You'd be able to place a customer in more than one price level. And then at this point, this query would potentially return more than one price level, and it would be up to the developer to decide how they want to leverage that information, which one they want to apply.
So if the customer, so if a developer put 2 price levels on a customer, or I mean, is that even possible? Can a developer store price level A, price level B on a customer, I mean, if
Right.
that
Well,
happens,
in
and
the
then
in
the
this
customer uses
actually,
QBO in the UI, is that going to cause QBO to choke on that because that's now stored twice in their customer record?
uh, that's a good question, and it's not something that we've actually tried to sort out exactly how QBO would interpret third-party developers doing this and then sending the
Okay.
price levels back to QBO. It's likely that QBO would just select a random one of the price levels that are applicable to this customer.
Got it.
Okay, so the one price level is now selected, and now when the user adds an item to a transaction line, first the above price level is applied by default, and its name is listed there. So distributor 1 925. Now there are two options. One would be to display only price levels that are relevant to this item ID, meaning a discount from the base price actually exists within this price level for this item ID. And that would require querying on each item ad. Alternately, and this is actually what QBO is planning on doing, all price levels will be displayed in the drop-down box, even if that price level doesn't apply to this specific item. Then if a user clicks on a different price level, the price level service is queried and the price is modified accordingly, maybe not at all. Again, this is still very much in flux, so we'd love to get your guys' feedback on this.
So this is Steve with SOS Inventory. Just a question. So you would actually be adding a customer to a price level and not a price level to a customer record?
Correct. And that's how it's stored, a customer to a price level.
Okay.
Okay. So some various workflows for a third-party developer. Similarly, you load up the invoice UI, user selects a customer. Now, you can either query for the price levels at the start, so that's exactly what QBO did, query on the customer, or you could issue a query when the user adds an item, and that was the other option up there. So you're giving price levels for this item ID and these conditionals, meaning this customer. But side note, the reason the word this conditional or these conditionals and customer ID are interchangeable, the reason we're using the term these conditionals is because potentially in the future, conditionals might be expanded to include date range, for instance. But so give price levels for this item and this customer ID. Again, you could suppress any price modifications not relevant to this item ID in order to cut down the response size. And at that point, the client is potentially you're going to receive a lot of price level objects. If multiple of them are conflicting, it's on the client's end to decide how to leverage those price levels, whether to combine them, whether to display one, whatever. Okay, and this is a real open question that we have for you guys, and that's whether there's an expectation that as a third-party developer you would be able to send invoices with blank amounts, and then the transaction service based on the conditionals, the customer ID, would then itself apply for you some specific prices, some discounted prices, and save the object as such, versus the third-party developers doing all of the querying, managing, and leveraging of price level objects, and then sending just prices to the transaction object, with the transaction object being blind to the price level being applied. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, Jason, I've seen this come up, a similar situation with sales tax. Like some developers kind of like, all right, I'll pass in the sales tax amount and calculate it myself. Other developers are like, hey, I want to pass the invoice in, and you guys calculate the sales tax and add it onto the invoice. So you're kind of asking a similar type thing. Like, you as a developer, do you want to control the price levels and pass those to us and keep track of all the prices, or would you just like to send over quantities? And because we know what price level that customer's on, we'll pop in the prices.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know, Stephen. I know you guys have lots of inventory, and you guys do some invoicing, I think, inside of SOS inventory. It'd be interesting to know your opinion on that. And I know, Jack, you just have lots of exposure in general to this stuff, so definitely fire away.
Yeah, this is Steve. We do something similar with invoice numbers. We have a feature to where you can create an invoice, and in order to keep aligned with QuickBooks invoice queuing, that we don't give it an invoice number, and then when it syncs up to QuickBooks, it provides the invoice number and then syncs back into our program. Given a price, it's going to be more difficult for somebody to enter in a sale, whether it be a sales receipt or an invoice, and not have a price to apply right there within the program, and then trust on, okay, it's going to sync, and then the price is going to apply.
Right, that makes sense.
So I would imagine that we're probably going to end up having to change some things in order to actually be synchronizing with the price level. And so that those price levels, whether created in our program or within QuickBooks, are going to reside in both.
Stephen, can you do me a favor? Just turn down your volume a little bit. I think it's coming back through your microphone.
Not sure why that's happening. I'm on a headset.
Maybe it's just a Google thing.
So hey, Steve, so you definitely would be able to, the bare minimum is being able to operate on these objects, obviously query them, read them, and then leverage them yourself, because all the information, of various prices that are eligible to be applied to given customers is captured within the object itself. So that's the bare minimum. I guess our question is more around, is this a use case that we need to scope in? Is there a situation in which this would be necessary, even if it's not the primary usage? And so far I'm hearing no from you personally, which would be good because it would reduce our scope.
I can't speak definitively, but I would say that I can't see that it would be used that way.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of thinking out loud, Jason. You kind of be almost like a developer that their app creates half invoices, right? Where it would be kind of strange, right? If somebody has an app or a CRM and they're invoicing out of that CRM, probably putting prices on invoices. Maybe somebody that has estimates, just pass the estimates over with no prices, or purchase orders. Maybe there's quantities. Maybe there'd be a use case where they're taking a purchase order of their app and moving it to an invoice in QBO.
Yeah, that is a use case that we've kind of been clued in towards, and that relates to the offline workflow down here as well, specifically with regard to an estimate, for instance. The developer might have all the price level objects cached and a map of which ones should apply. However, this isn't the most recent and updated version. It's subject to change, I guess. So they would, show the estimate to their customer with a best guess price level applied, and then hope to, at a later time, send it to the service. Any corrections that are made would only, give a further discount for their customer. So they would absorb any difference as a result of that error. That's a use case that was suggested to us. I don't know if that strikes home at all.
Hi, this is Jack. I'm echoing. Basically, we have a QuickBooks desktop app that's basically an easy order entry, and planning on converting it to QBO. And I could see where not filling in the details and just the item will certainly help. Where bang, they clock in item A and it comes back with all the expected prices or something like that, so that the user would not be responsible for knowing what each price is or pulling down the drop-down boxes. So I think that is maybe a potential use case in that scenario.
Now, just a question on it is, if a customer is in two price levels and both price levels have the same item, so they may be in a wholesale price level as well as a distributor's price level, how is it going to understand which price to return for that customer for that item?
Now, do you mean in the situation where you send it to the transaction service without a price, or do you mean when you query and try to receive the price levels?
When you send it without a price.
Gotcha. So for now, yes, David?
Just before you answer that, can you pull down the volume on your laptop? I think your mic's picking it back up. When I mute you, all the echo goes away.
Okay, you just... Okay, you said it's picking up the volume on my... no, that shouldn't... No, this is just my headphones, so... Sorry, what did you want me to reduce?
Yeah, whatever you did down, that worked.
Strange. Okay, it's working better now?
Perfect. All right, continue on.
Okay. Right, so in the situation where you sent it back without, and you were hoping that the service would apply a price level for you, right now our thoughts would be if you as a third-party developer had created overlapping price levels, then a random one would be selected as one of the results, and the discount would be applied. Those are the current thoughts.
So if
Sorry, go ahead, please.
If an invoice is sent over, or a sales receipt is sent over, if a price is entered, that's going to drive it. But if a price is not entered, then it would return a random result of the a price that the customer may be in that price level. And I guess the second part to that question is what happens if that customer is not in a price level for that particular item? Does it just return the standard price?
That's correct. Again, this would be, so, right, in theory, you could choose, if they're being randomly selected, and you had a price level with this customer and only one item in it, and then another price level with this customer and every item in it, you probably would want the latter price level selected, right? But with this usage, the first price level would potentially be selected, and the discount would only apply if you had put that one item in the transaction. If it's a matter of keeping your price levels in sync with the ones that the QBO user has created through their UI, then it shouldn't be an issue, because again, that will enforce that a customer can only belong to one price level. So you would know when you're sending off the object, if you haven't created any additional ones, then you would know that which one is being applied. But this, yeah, very much, I mean, this is, there are some downsides, there are some major cons here, so definitely looking to hear your feedback on if that's sufficient. And as far, it wouldn't be just to get maybe you're reading through this, but there would be a little more granularity, so you'd be able to indicate, you are passing amounts in, but you want a price level to be applied on top of those amounts that you're passing in, or you're saying no, these amounts, take them as is, don't apply a price level on top.
Hey, Jason. So inventory obviously came in. A lot of the inventory when we acquired Lattice, right? And it kind of gave us this inventory expertise. How much of some of these inventories coming in is based off the expertise you gained from purchasing Lattice and learning about those inventory use cases and the API stuff needed to support that product from standalone versus what we're doing now?
So you're saying versus what we're doing in desktop?
Well, no, so QBO at one time had no inventory, right?
Right.
And then we purchased Lattice, and then that Lattice tech stack started getting implemented into QBO. And so, but Lattice always had APIs, my understanding. So I was just wondering, what kind of learnings from their APIs and their stack is being applied going forward to the QBO stack?
I mean, the learnings from the Lattice project, and personally, to be totally transparent, I'm speaking from what I've heard because I wasn't with Intuit for most of this, but the learnings are definitely being applied here and utilized. However, with price levels in particular, we're basing this heavily off of the QB desktop price levels feature, price rules actually, from QBDT Enterprise, because our goal is, of course, to enable the gaps that are preventing desktop users from coming over to QBO.
Yep. Got it. Cool. Jack, Steven, do you guys have anything else?
I do. This is Steve. I was just wondering what the time frame that we're looking for this to be in effect, and when will it be opened up in the API, as well as when will the it be added to the development site in order to exactly how to integrate it into our API.
Right. It's pretty difficult to say right now, but I can say it's very far off. We're in the design phases right now. We're finishing off bundles, and then this work is getting kicked off for the most part. So this is very early right now.
Okay, understood. So are we talking months or years?
Definitely months. Months and months. Not a year. I mean, I don't want to say years, but months and months. Is that fine?
Okay.
This stuff always takes longer than we think, right? But ultimately, the fact that Jason's coming on, the team's coming on and showing these things before they're done and getting them exposed to you and making sure we're getting feedback early, we'll actually make sure once it does get delivered, we're not just dropping the ball and missing something major, because that's the worst, I think, and very frustrating for developers. We get to the finish line, we release an API, and developers are like, oh, great, it's useless because it doesn't do A, B, and C. So I think just showing it early, even though it's not even close to being done, is really the better way to go, because these are basically, we're still at the mock-ups in PowerPoint, and the specs are still in an email that Jason has, like that. So it's early and raw, but that's the best way for us to get the API actually somewhat complete when you do get it.
Exactly. It would be great if we could hit Sandbox and it's already doing everything that you guys need.
Jack, I think you were about to ask something right when Steven jumped in. If you want to unmute.
Yeah, I think he answered my question about when it's going to be available, especially in the .NET SDK, which is what we use.
Right, yeah. Again, just very hard to say right now. So yes, we're mostly curious on your general opinions on this workflow, mainly the primary one in which the developers query the price level service for the conditionals or price modifications that they want, and then the developer, the app, is what does the leveraging of multiple price levels that they apply, and then sending blind prices to the transaction service. Of course, it's still an open question. We heard that the other use case where you don't send prices to the transaction service, that is probably a use case as well. But for the most part, does this usage, manipulation of these objects, does it seem like a reasonable representation? Jack and Steven?
Yeah, it looks reasonable to me. Even though I would prefer using, or at least seeing the names there, because it's kind of hard to know what the IDs really mean.
Like wholesale, right here?
Yeah,
Or
but
do you mean?
thinking on a customer name, item name.
Okay. Okay.
So somebody sends us a troubleshoot, you know, item ID 10 or 20. It's hard for us to talk to the customer about what really happened to it.
Right. Okay. No.
Hey, Jason.
Mhm.
It was on the Hangouts 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago now, and Vinay was talking about the V4 APIs and how the V4 APIs, the way those are going to work is the API is being created at the same time the functions being added to QBO. So in a way, and QBO is being built on top of those APIs. So that way, it all gets released at the same time. And if the API is working, QBO is working, we can't change QBO and break the API because it doesn't. QBO is now dependent on the APIs as well, and not the other direction. Do you know whether or not like some of these features, some of these inventory features you're working on for bundles or price levels, are these kind of being built in that V4 API framework, or is this kind of a V3 stack? And I'll unmute you here.
Right. So we're very much in a transitional state right now between V3 and V4. With regard to it, it's a case-by-case basis. With bundles, there is V3 functionality being released because the V4 public APIs aren't available. So in the near term, some of our features are being built on V4, but as far as public consumption, it's V3. There are backwards compatibility is being added to V3 as well. With price levels, and the pattern will continue to be QBO is basically the first customer for a new V4 service. That way we can get some early feedback also from our first-party developer, and then shortly after will be made publicly available. That's kind of the pattern that we're going to move into once everyone's consuming the same APIs.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it just brings stability going forward, where everybody's using the same APIs, including us on our side of the fence. It's awesome.
Exactly. So for bundles, as you know, there will be, and whenever there's a backwards compatibility question, which with bundles there are, we'll add whatever is necessary to V3 so that current apps continue to function. So there will be bundles functionality added into V3. With price levels, the intent is to make it usable through V4 only, and by that point, V4 will be publicly consumable.
Got it. So there's no questions from the outside panel. If Jack and Steven don't have any additional questions, we probably wrap things up on the broadcast this week. And if you have anything closing thoughts you need to address, definitely, Jason, of course. We're going to even maybe give a small update on where you are with bundles. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So with bundles, we're starting to wrap things up. You should see some sandbox functionality coming in the next couple months, month or two. So they're very, very close to getting you guys some stuff.
Great. Hey, Jason, thanks for coming. I do appreciate it. I definitely will have you on again if you need more feedback. Show others developers. Maybe come on when you actually have bundle items ready to release. We can bring you on again and just really show, hey, here's how you use them. Here's what the API turned out to be. Thanks for the feedback from we gave you 5 months ago or whatever. Awesome. For everybody else, thank you for attending. You can always reach on Twitter at Intuit Dev. All the future Hangouts are going to be listed on developer.intuit.com/hub. And definitely stay tuned for a very special edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. Sometime probably next week or the following week after, where we're going to talk about our $100,000 small business app showdown. All right, thanks guys, and I'm going to stop the broadcast, but I'll stay on for an extra 20 here if we want to do just open Q&A for stuff. Thanks.